Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today, we are reading a new character that John has not read before. I have. And it is actually one of our patron requests or poll winners.
Poll,
I guess.
yeah.
Yeah. So just in case you didn't know, if you want to maybe have a say in what we, like one episode we do every month. Actually, right now we did two. But, you know, going forward, we'll probably do one. We're doing polls just to let the audience pick one of the, like, out of certain characters or genres or maybe even companies. Just, you know, voting on something that will sway our pick for one of the episodes.
Yeah, so if you're like, man, I'm tired of you doing DC. I wanted, another
Yeah,
Marvel
we insist
or
on
something.
Marvel, and then I'll be
Yeah.
like, thanks, guys. But, yeah, so this week or this month, we had two winners. They were tied. One of them was for The Spectre, which we did last week, and this week is for Animal Man. And we are doing the 80s Animal Man. So this is the 88 Animal Man run. And it is by Grant Morrison and Trug. I don't know what the guy's first name is, but Trug.
I think it's Chas.
Chas Trug.
Chas or Chas.
Trug. I don't know how to say his name. This is the only thing I've ever seen him do. So I don't know. That artist isn't familiar to me. But yeah, this was like the reboot after the Crisis on Infinite Earths. So I mean, he has been a character before this. I haven't read any of that. Apparently, just like Swamp Thing, kind of, it was just kind of by the numbers or something. There wasn't anything like unique necessarily, and Animal Man was kind of a D-list character.
Yeah.
And this is where he got some notoriety because Grant Morrison takes him to some cool places. And so, kind of like Alan Moore did with Swamp Thing. It's not as epic as that, I don't think, but he definitely assesses the character and makes you care more for him. So
Definitely.
and this was your first time reading this character, right, John?
Yeah. And so we've read other Grant Morrison stuff, obviously. So I've enjoyed his work. So it was like, okay, well, I don't know anything about this character. And it was one of those things that's like, and it's kind of a running joke in this too. It's like, Animal Man, oh, what's your power? You turn into animals? And that's kind of how I thought it would be going into it. But, it's definitely not quite that. But his power is unique. It was an interesting way to think about
Yes.
How to use animals.
Well, and I think we'll get into like what his power is exactly, but I think Grant Morrison took his power to another level.
Yeah.
Just like Alan Moore did with Swamp Thing, where before Swamp Thing was kind of, I'm a monster, and I'm strong and I can like kind of regenerate, but not like I do in the Alan Moore run.
Yeah.
Alan Moore was like, okay, that's cool, but what if this? And so Grant Morrison kind of does that to a lesser extent. I think he improves on his powers, but he doesn't like totally change his shit up or anything. So let's just get into it, though. We start off with a mysterious figure walking in the desert. They say he's been walking for a long time, and that, from his narration, we can see that he hates humanity and cities in particular and just the stench of them and everything. And this guy's wearing like kind of a costume underneath a trench coat, but he's walking in the desert, so that can't be fun.
No, I'm sure he's hot.
Yeah, and he's walking in California because we see he's going to San Diego.
San Diego.
And specifically, he's going there because he can hear animals like screaming and crying out in pain. And then we cut from that gentleman to our main hero here, Animal Man, named Buddy Baker.
Buddy Baker, such a good classic
hero name.
Like hero name, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like all those old characters. They gotta have alliterations in their name.
Yeah.
And so Buddy Baker is Animal Man. He is a stunt man. That's his like day job. But he hasn't done it for a while. He's been kind of like letting it slip, I guess, or just not interested in pursuing that. His wife is currently kind of like the breadwinner of the family. She's an accountant, right? Or something like that.
She does some kind of... No, I think she does some movies too because she said something about storyboarding, I remember.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she's a storyboarder. That's right. That was something else I was reading.
No, you're fine.
I read too many comics. They're going to all blend together.
I was like, you sure you get them blended. So.
His wife is a storyboard artist, and she kind of pays the bills while he is looking for work and does like part-time heroing, but he's not getting paid to be a hero, and he hasn't quite made the decision to go like full bore. I know later on in this he gets a manager and stuff, so he tries to like kind of like it's almost like a Booster Gold Blue Beetle situation, which you haven't read too much of that, but
Yeah.
Booster Gold is like always like a marketing, like he's like, hey, we should be on TikTok so we can get like our followers, and then they'll pay for us to like go, supplement our income to be heroes or whatever.
Yeah.
So this kind of like this Animal Man's in the same vein as them. I also like how they kind of made fun of Blue Beetle in this because Animal Man's always trying to get into the Justice League at the end of this, and he's like, "How does Blue Beetle get in this
He
thing?"
was just in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, yeah. What's his power anyways? Like he's rich. He's like, yeah, but he's not as rich as Batman. Like, it's just kind of funny that like, there's all these like D-list characters that at this time get into the Justice League because this is the Justice League International team time period, and that's where Batman was the most powerful person, or the most seasoned veteran of the Justice League at that time. Martian Manhunter's in it as well, and they're kind of like the co-leaders. And then everybody else is like, you got new hero Booster Gold who just came on the scene. You got Blue Beetle who just came on the scene. Captain Atom who just came on. Like those are all brand new characters. And then they put in Guy Gardner as the Green Lantern. So you get like a good mix of weird characters that you don't get to see too often as part of the actual Justice League. And so that's why it fits with this Animal Man story. Like that's also, it kind of makes sense why they brought Animal Man back at this time, because it's like, oh, he could fit into that like list of people. Okay, no problem. So we start off with Animal Man on this first page, and he is saving a cat from a tree for his neighbor because his neighbor is too lazy to go up there and get it. And so we get to see a little bit of his power as he reaches for the kitten, and the kitten freaks out and jumps, and Buddy grabs him, but he also falls at the same time because the tree limb snaps, and he's able to absorb the cat's power, or the cat's like agility is what it is. Yeah. So his power is that he can absorb animals, not powers because there's the regular stuff, but their skills, or whatever, like their natural abilities. So as a cat, he gets the agility. He lands on his feet. So it's pretty cool. We get to see a little bit of that. We meet his family, like we said, his wife, who's named Ellen, and then his kid. What's his kid's name?
So he's got Cliff as the boy, and then Maxine as the daughter.
That's right. And
they're very like interesting. Like I don't know how, like Cliff is obviously a little older. I guess he's about to be a teen, and he very much comes off as like a little punk. Yeah, he's got like a mullet, and he's like, whatever, Dad.
Yeah, and he's like a little metalhead.
Yeah,
which I thought was fun.
And then Maxine is very much just like
a daddy's girl.
Yeah. I like animals too, and I'm a daddy's girl. So.
Yeah. And there's some different tension between the family, like the husband and wife, because she wants him to, I don't know, maybe either do something with your superhero-ness or don't. Or do something with your, career as a stunt person or don't. Pick a lane and fucking go with it, because we need you to start making money. We need you to do something for this family, And he's just kind of lost and like forlorn. He's almost kind of going through like a midlife crisis or something in the beginning of this.
It's true. He says something, he's like 30 something, and he's like, I don't know, like, because they do mention he's like, yeah, since that crisis issue, I had like a real taste of like what it was like to be a hero, and I'm like, so maybe I do want to do this, like, So he's obviously trying to figure things out.
And she's like, "That's great. Can you fucking just like do it then, and just stop talking about it, or like waiting?"
Yeah. So apparently he paid a bunch of money to make a good costume for himself, and he's only worn it like twice, like during the crisis. And
so that's like where he's at in his headspace. He's like, it's like shit or get off the pot. He's constantly questioning, like, should I do it? Should I not do it? And then also the other thing is, people know who he is. He doesn't have a secret identity. Everybody knows that the stuntman named Buddy Baker is Animal Man. So if he does the superheroing full time, his house is going to be, known or findable at least by, the bad guys. So, and that comes up a little bit later. So, but we just get a good introduction of the family dynamic, how like the little boy Cliff is like a dick, and Maxine's just kind of sweet and nice. And then we cut back to the man in shadow, the man in the trench coat, and he is in the city now, and he's just like not having a good time. He's hearing all the noises and the smells and the decay, and humans are so fucking disgusting. And then he's also having visions of like a star. You can definitely tell he's having like a connection mentally with something because he's getting like flashes of images and specifically a star though. We're not sure exactly what that is. And he also keeps talking about like they took her, those monsters, they took her or whatever. So he's looking for someone in specific, but we don't know who it is. And then we see he's in an alley and we see him take off his helmet and we see he's like this white guy. And he's got like a superhero helmet, I guess, or a super helmet.
It made me think, like, when he pulled it off, I was like, oh, is that like a Magneto helmet? Like, it,
right.
Obviously DC, but
Oh,
still,
this is DC, John.
It's way, yeah. But, like, that's the kind of the vibe it is. It looks like a metal
And it also says it blocks, like, mental waves.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so he's there in this alley, and someone, a figure comes out of nowhere with a gun and tries to rob him. And this is where we find out that he's not a good guy because he grabs the hand of the man. It's as quick as a snake. Or I think this is a boy. I don't know. He's like maybe in his teens is what I'm thinking.
Something like that. Yeah.
Late teens, early 20s, maybe something like that. And he grabs the kid's hand with the gun and smashes the hand completely because he punches him as well. And the next time we see the kid, his head is splatted on the ground. He's dead,
and his hand looks like it's splattered too, like he completely crushed.
Ripped it off, crushed it and ripped it off possibly or something. He's bleeding. There is no hand anymore, basically.
Yeah.
Then he goes on the run, and then we get a little bit more of Animal Man's powers as he talks to his wife. We see that he can like channel a spider and lift a car because spiders can lift more than
like 10 times their weight.
Yeah, something like that. And then we can see, like, he starts training. He decides with his wife, like, look, I'm going to do this thing. And she's like, all right, then do it. We'll start training. So we get, like, this little quick page by page montage of, like, day 1, day 2, day 3.
And I didn't mind it. Like, this montage was kind of fun, actually.
It's for the reader.
Yeah.
So we understand his powers. This is where you missed it, but they say that his powers last 35 minutes or so. And so he can kind of time. Let's see. It says... looks like when you absorb power, it only lasts for half an hour without a recharge. So that's where we learn, okay, he can, like, because he's swimming and he can hold his breath for 30 minutes. She does the timing. And so now we know if he's in a battle, hopefully, whatever power he's using is going to be lost within 30 minutes, and then he's going to have to find a new animal.
So hopefully it's not a large battle or there's animals in the area.
Right. Well, and luckily there was always animals in the area. I mean, you can, like, later we find out you can go down to earthworms in the dirt, you can find bugs or whatever, so there's always something around that he can use. He just has to know what to be able to use from it.
I just imagine, because they show him sensing animals with, like, rings, kind of like Aquaman's. Yeah, so I just imagine the same sound effect. Just,
I totally heard that too. Yeah, and so we can see that he can fly because he can absorb the power or the skill of the eagles and stuff. He can run fast because he can run as fast as an ant. Because I guess for their size they run fast.
Yeah.
So he can, like, comparatively run fast as well. There's a scene where he's running and he's not looking where he's going in this, and you see a banana peel, and I thought they were going to show him, like, wipe out from a banana peel, which I thought was going to be funny. But they just cut away from it, so I just imagined that he did fall.
That, like, into a cactus or something.
Exactly. So then at the end of this training session, he's hanging out with a neighbor or a buddy. I don't know if it's his neighbor or his buddy, but
his buddy Roger.
And his buddy, I guess, knows people on TV, and he's like, hey, I'll be your manager. And he's like, really? You think I need that? And totally.
He comes off as such a, like, he has a very
Smarmy.
like, he kind of has a John Waters look to him.
Definitely.
He's got his suspenders, his
without the
back
mustache.
hair. Yeah, no mustache, but, like, it's like the really kind of like pencil thin, his suspenders, his slick back hair. He very much has the look of, like, I'll do it for you, buddy.
Yeah, like a used car salesman.
Yes, there you go. Perfect.
No offense to John Waters.
Yes.
Or I like how you're like, no offense to used car salesman. You know what? Fuck those guys.
That's
all right?
true. Usually they're.
Fuck them. Just kidding.
Get a real job.
Yeah,
no, I'm kidding.
We love you guys.
Yes. No.
Well,
I may need a used car.
That's fine. You never know. Yeah, in this market, yeah.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. No, anyway.
Yeah. Anyway. So then we also see another thing that this hooded figure that is the bad guy, we're assuming, he can do. He has like a potion that he drinks, and it gives him some sort of power. I'm not exactly sure what it gives. It feels like a regeneration of some kind.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause he's been tired and stuff just from, like, moving. Apparently we find out later he's come from Africa in, like, days. So we're assuming
He just walked over, swam, and then
yeah, like just
kept walking.
nonstop came over. So he's been using this elixir, we'll call it, that's been around his neck to kind of recharge. And then he's saying like it's getting louder and louder as I get closer. And we see that he's going towards a building that says Star Laboratories. So that is the star that he's been seeing in his visions, and he finally understands. And then we cut back to the Baker family, and is now day 5, and we see that Animal Man, through his buddy Roger, was somehow on some sort of talk show with a guy that looks a lot like Donald Trump. I don't know.
Kind of does.
But this guy's, interviewing him, and apparently, just like all the interviews, they went long in the taping, and then they just cut everything out except like, "Hi, I'm Animal Man." Well, that's a cool name. Do you turn into animals? He's like, "Well, not really." And he's like, "That's crazy, folks." Anyway, our next
That was
segment,
Animal Man.
Yeah. So we like he gets like a little bit of screen time, but nothing big, and he's kind of mad about that. And then they also give him like the nickname the Human Zoo, and like it's weird stuff.
Yeah.
That he's trying it out, and so then we cut to some hunters.
This was definitely like, this is where there's a little bit of a swerve in the comic, and I was like, what the heck? Where did these people come from?
It gets real heavy real fast. So, I mean, this is supposed to be. There's a reason for this, and it is because Animal Man at this point is just your regular average American who eats meat and doesn't. I mean, they care about animals, but not like in an eating way or not a conscious way, kind of thing. And so they introduce these hunters that are like they just fucking shoot everything, murder everything.
They don't hunt they hunt for like not even for sport. They hunt for like
killing
to kill.
Like
things.
literally, like I like killing stuff.
I like killing.
So there's these 4 guys that are. I don't know if they know. Is one of the guys Roger? I don't know. I feel like one of these guys maybe knew Buddy or something, like his neighbor or something. I don't know. Maybe they don't know them at all. But either way, they're like just like they have a what's it called? This car. What's it called?
A station wagon.
Station wagon. There you go. They got the Griswold special, and so there's 4 guys in there, and they're just like outside of their window while they're driving, shooting birds and shit, drinking beers while they're driving, and then we cut away from them, and we see Animal Man, because he was in that TV show the other night, has got a call from Star Labs, and we find out that the night before, the mysterious figure that approached Star Labs, and then we cut away from. They broke in to Star Labs and trashed the place. We don't know what's going on, but the scientist there is saying like, "Oh, we do like AIDS research," and
I love this. They were like, hey, he's like, "Okay, how can I help?" He's like, "Well, we were gonna ask Superman, but he's busy. So we saw you on TV, and so we're like, hey, we asked this guy to come.
Might as well try." So they hire him. He's like a hero for hire in this one. And so, he's looking at the damage, and there's like a shit ton of damage, like steel doors ripped off their hinges, bent in half, dented. And so, it looks pretty heavy. And like I said, he asked what, was going on, and they're like, "Oh, it was just some AIDS research. No big deal."
Yeah.
And then he walks into a room, and there's like a blob, like literally the blob, like an absorbing mound of chimps that are all one organism now.
Yeah.
So something has fused all these animals together, unsuccessfully, we'll say.
Yeah, no, it literally giant blob with like some arms, some heads, some tails sticking out here and there randomly, and just like
it's still alive. It's
just
still alive.
Yeah, like basically have like 20, 30 screaming apes.
Yeah, because the scientist says like, "Ooh, like they'll quiet down when they die finally, but they're not dead yet, And so that's like what he's up against, and then that issue ends. So like that's like the horrific last panel of that comic, which is pretty good last panel. Where you're like, what the fuck is going on? Then we cut to I thought this part was fucked up. So Maxine, the daughter, was saying like, "Oh, we lost one of our cats, and I'm sure it's okay, but it just it'll come back eventually, but it must be in the woods." So then we cut to the cat in the woods, and it's it's having a blast hunting some rats in the woods, and we cut, and also in the woods, they show that the hunters are arriving.
The hunters are in the woods now walking, and you're obviously it's like, oh, so somebody's gonna cross paths.
Something's gonna happen. So then we cut back to Animal Man, where he's staring at this amalgamation of monkeys and chimps, And he's like, what in God's name was going on here? And the scientist is like, whoa, this isn't us. Like this is not what we were doing. This is the thing that broke in must have done this or whatever.
Yeah, no. They were all individuals beforehand.
Yeah. And so he actually gets like a breakdown of what happened. And we see that the thing that broke in is like a giant cockroach, basically. That's what he's being told. Now, this is from the memory of the security guard, right? This isn't like video footage.
No. It's from the memory of I think the security guard or the scientist that was lab assistant. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the lab assistant and I think the security guard both like corroborated this, but it looks like a giant cockroach. I was a little confused on this. Like, can the bad guy transform himself, or does he just? He does, right? Like he can.
He can do some stuff. He can do some transformative stuff, and then also he does some things with animals.
Yeah. We'll talk about that when we get to it, but it definitely has to do with this amalgamation of chimps.
Yes.
So Animal Man is now on the trail of this guy.
He's like, I just need a dog to like be able to like sniff him out, and they're like, okay, well,
we got
this
dogs.
Happens, yeah, we got dogs here.
And I thought this was, this is all supposed to lead up to Buddy's transformation into like an animal person, because he's Animal Man, so it makes sense that he would eventually kind of end up being like an animal rights activist and also like a vegetarian or a vegan, and so he absorbs the dogs that they have, or the scent smelling ability from them. And he's like, hey, you want to check out those dogs? They're really sick. And they're like, oh, are they? Because they're testing on the dogs, but they don't want to tell him that. So he's like, you could have given me healthy dogs. They're like, oh, they're perfectly fine. And it's like, oh, are they? So he flies out there. And I like this. Apparently he can just absorb multiple things at once as well, because he's got the smell from the dogs. But he also sees a bird outside and he can fly away. And fly out the window that was broken. So he does that. Then we come back to the hunters, who are now shooting a baby deer in the neck and killing it. And then they release some dogs that they have with them. They're like Doberman pinchers. And the whole time we see the little cat that is Maxine's cat. She is bringing the rat that she killed to her babies. That I don't know if they would eat this at this age, but they're supposed to be really young because they don't even have their eyes open yet. So
no, they would be nurses.
Maybe this is like so she can eat while they suckle or something. Yeah. So either way, we get the sense that these hunters are fucking assholes for sure, and something bad's gonna happen with that cat.
Let's keep finding stuff to shoot.
Yeah. So Buddy goes around. He's on the trail of this thing. He runs into Superman, which was fun. Like Superman sees him and stops. Like, you doing okay? And he's like, hey, how's it going, man? He's like, well, I gotta go. Like, someone's calling me or whatever. He's like, oh okay. And like,
yeah, he did that. He's talking to him. He's like, hi. He like learns his name, and he's like, oh, you hear that? Someone's. Oh wait, no, you can't hear that. That's right.
Never mind.
Silly me. That's my superpower.
Yeah.
See you later.
Here's a question. So Animal Man humans are animals. Mm-hmm. And maybe Superman is an animal.
Ooh.
Could he absorb...
Could he get 30 minutes of Superman's power?
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. That's a good idea.
That's not in this, but,
Maybe in the new 52.
I am the new Alan Moore. I'm ready.
We said it first, easy.
Yeah. No, they don't give a fuck about this. So, not the podcast, but they don't give a fuck about Animal Man or anything. So
they will now. We got an idea for Animal Man movie. Here we go.
Yeah, you stay away from this Jeff Lemire. I see you there. So yeah, like we said, he meets He meets Superman, and then we cut back to the bad guy who is, it's daytime now. He's on the run from everything that was going on, and he talks about like those beasts. Like, I can't believe what I saw in there, and like, what are they doing to you, my dear, and all this stuff. He's very fucked up.
And it's very odd because you're like, who is he talking about?
Yeah.
Like. Because maybe we didn't see if there was like
there wasn't
someone in there with it. It was just very odd. You're like, what is going on?
But we see another set of his powers that John kind of alluded to earlier. He's in an alley. He sees a rat. He picks the rat up. Then he sees a homeless man, and he's like, you know what? I can like feel the Animal Man nearby, like this hero. So like, I need something to fight him off because I don't want to deal with him. So he takes the rat and he shows us a power that he has, which is he can turn things and other things together.
Like he can morph things together.
Or he telepods them together, kind of like the fly when
when
the baboon meshes with the third telepod in the fly, and you see like circuitry or what. It's like that, but with like or like he could become his Fly basically. Like he takes the rat and the homeless man, and he like pushes the rat becomes like gooey in his hand, and then he like pushes it onto the homeless man's face as the guy freaks out. And then the next thing we see, Buddy Baker. I thought this was funny because, it's the 80s. There are no cell phones. Buddy is always on a telephone, like a payphone, because he has to like check in with his manager and with other people and with Star Labs. So he's always like, got to stop, make a phone call, which I think is funny just in general. It's like seeing a superhero in a phone booth or whatever.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any of the fancy gadgetry that like the Justice League have. Like they all have telecoms that they can talk to each other through, basically.
He's like, no, I got to find a payphone real fast.
Yeah. So while he's in the payphone, he gets attacked by a gigantic rat. Obviously, this is the thing that our main bad guy made. And it's a human-sized rat. So very buff rat.
It's a cool looking.
It's a buff Splinter, basically.
It is. Yes, that's perfect. Splinter on steroids.
Yes, exactly. And so maybe a young Splinter. I don't know what he looked like when he was training or whatever. Then we cut to Maxine and Ellen, the mom, and they're going out for a fun walk in the woods. In the meantime, Buddy's still fighting that rat monster. I mean, he's not losing. He's holding his own fairly well.
He's trying to find the animals nearby. He senses a praying mantis at one point. He's like, and he's so he's like got like he's like powerful kicks with his legs, like the praying mantis's arms.
So he's able to fight it off pretty good. And then we cut back to Maxine and Ellen, who are in the woods, and of course they stumble upon a deer that just got shot, and they're like, "Oh my god, what's wrong with it?" And then they don't know that it got shot, and then all of a sudden some hunters come out of the woods, and they're the same hunters that we've been seeing. Then we cut back.
And they're like, "Hey, what are y'all doing here?"
Yeah, getting all
and
creepy.
It cuts away.
Yes, they build up tension by like the fight scene and then what's going on with the wife and Maxine. And so we see Animal Man is like we said, holding his own against the rat. They're getting some pretty good shots in on each other, but the rat, he's got claws and shit. So while Buddy can punch with his fists, the rat like scratches at him, and we see like a quick scratch, and it's from the back. So I think, oh, did he scratch his chest or something? Then we cut to Buddy, who is now missing an arm.
Yeah.
Like the rat literally tore his right arm off. And he like falls down and he begins to bleed out in the alley.
Yeah, I love the moment of he looks at his arm, he sees it, and then he sees it on the ground, and he's like, my arm, and like it's like he's having that moment of like he hasn't quite felt the pain from it yet. He's just like, oh, what just happened?
Yeah. And then he just passes out and then lays there while the rat man transforms back into a human again.
Yes.
And so the last shot of this issue is Animal Man bleeding out in the alley. And, we're like, oh, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
So then we start off with a flashback of what our villain saw.
What happened that night?
Yeah, and so
Star Labs.
What we found was that these scientists are not, nice scientists. They are testing on these animals and giving them very, very horrible strains of anthrax and other kind of diseases to test for biochemical weapons for the government.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to. Has this ever happened before, Sean?
No, I don't think there's ever been anything.
I don't think anything's ever like escaped from a lab and like. Wait.
This isn't a timely read for us.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, so I mean, the government doesn't create bio weapons, do they?
What are you talking about?
Okay. Anyway, no politics here.
Are you talking about there was a like something with Lyme disease?
Lyme disease? Yes, like that's exactly what I'm talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
Now you got it. So we find out that this bad guy is named Buona Beast, and he had an ape named Juba. And they lived together on Mount Kilimanjaro, and he was known as the white god of Kilimanjaro because he's a white guy. But he's been given like powers of animal like strength, or he can like absorb animal powers, kind of like Animal Man, but to a bigger extent where he can actually like turn into the animal.
Yeah.
Right? And also apparently he can fucking fuse people together, like animals together.
And he can hear the helmet that he wears is because he can hear animals from far away and like all animals around. Yeah. So like if he hears if there's animals being tested on like this, he hears them screaming from miles away or whatever. He's like, oh my god, like what is going on?
Yeah, so he's like the protector of the animals, I guess,
Yeah.
in Africa or in his area. And it's a problematic character, we'll say. Maybe.
Yeah, this is definitely not a character they would.
I don't know,
nowadays.
because if this was a black person, it might be a little racist. So I don't know the way that they draw him and everything.
Yeah, it's problematic. I feel like any way that you kind of go with this.
Yeah.
I mean, if they did this character now, they definitely couldn't use the white god name. That's pretty white savior. Is ugh.
Sure, but at least it's with animals. It's not with people.
That's true. But it's still like it's definitely like it's right on the edge
the
of
cusp.
That,
Yeah. I didn't feel that awkward reading it because I've read this before, but I was wondering what you thought of.
Oh yeah, no, right away I was like, oh, the white god, huh?
All right.
I was like, okay,
Interesting.
The white god of Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, but again, yeah, like you said, like it's weird. It was weird because it also feels like he has a connection with Juba, the ape, and it feels
so I kind of was talking to you about this. He is more ape than man, or animal than man, and Juba the ape is more human than ape.
Yeah,
like
they're both kind of like have god-esque.
They're like missing links,
yeah.
kind of thing together, and they both live on this mountain together. And like they were, I mean, I'm not going to assume what they were doing, but
no, they don't explicitly say.
They at
but
least
it does
have a relationship where he was willing to kill for her.
Yeah, and like there's like tears in her eyes when she sees him.
Yeah, and they can telepathically talk to each other. So
as she's like suffering in pain from I will say they really make you feel for the animals in this too, because they show
they're just dumping these dead monkeys and chimps in garbage bags and throwing them away.
And
stuff.
the other apes that are still happen to be alive, they show them with like sores and just like growth on their body. It's horrible.
Yes,
but I mean, like, it's horrible in the sense like they're making you feel like, oh my gosh, like I know why this guy is doing this.
Yeah,
it's
I mean, that's one thing about this. They give this guy, while they acknowledge that he's bad and shouldn't be, amalgamating homeless people with rats and shit, or like just killing people in general.
Yeah,
they do give him like a sympathetic story where he's like, I was in Africa minding my business, kind of helping the people of Africa out and the animals of Africa out, and then. Little did I know, back on our mountain, these fucking scientists stole Juba from our home or whatever, and took her, and then I had to fucking track her down. So it's kind of fucked up. Now what'd you think of Bwana Beast's costume?
When I first saw it, I was like, oh, is this person related to like Bane? Because it very much feels like a kind of like
there's a bit of Bane,
a little bit luchador, and then a little bit like Tarzan-y.
Right. So he's got the helmet, like the Magneto helmet, but it has like a Wolverine face mask where like the points come up from the eyes. And so it looks a little bit like a luchador, we'll say.
Yeah, that's what it made me think. And then,
sure. But it's a helmet. It's not like a leather mask or anything.
And then a candy cane colored
loincloth. So the rest of him is completely naked. So, hey, ladies, this is for you. Everybody's talking about Power Girl.
You don't know?
Sure. I mean, anybody who's attracted to guys, this is for you. And he you talk about Power Girl having a boob window or whatever. Like this guy's got everything window.
Pretty much, yeah.
So
that loincloth is just strategically
it's bulging.
placed.
There's ripples in it. I'm just saying.
Yes.
And then he's got some like colorful boots. He kind of reminded me of a different version of like the animal savior version of Kraven the Hunter.
Yes, 100%.
But Kraven's got pants, so
that's true. Kraven at least has tight pants.
Yeah. So, speaking of, did you see they basically made Kraven in the new movie that they're talking about? This guy, where like he's an animal savior guy.
No, I didn't hear they change. I know that they were working on the movie.
They totally were like, no, he's not going to be like a bad guy. He's going to love animals.
Well, that's what Sony's plan is for all of these.
Yeah, but that's a lot easier to do with
characters.
Morbius or whatever. You can't do that with
Kraven. No, because Kraven was he was because I also remember in the '90s cartoon he was a big game hunter, but then became a because people were like,
but that's a cartoon.
But they also did it in the comics then around that time too. Is
I don't remember that.
He became a protector.
I'm just going by the one that we read. Kraven's Last Hunt, where he murders himself. He shoots himself in the face. So I thought that was his last hunt. I didn't know he went after that.
No, I mean, just like with every character, they do.
Okay. Well, either way, I was just like, this feels a lot like the new Craven, this guy,
Yeah.
because he's got he looks a lot like Craven, and then he's also got like the I help animals thing. So anyway, either way, just another Sony movie that's probably gonna bomb. This is all I'm saying.
We'll see. No, what are you talking about? Morbius is the #1 film on Apple streaming services.
Yeah,
I think that was the only #1 it got.
sure.
Anyway.
So anyway, Buona Beast jumps down, and now he's I guess, did he put Juba somewhere? I don't remember.
The night before he didn't grab her body, he runs away right beforehand. I guess
Probably because the guard was there. Or whatever.
Yeah, and as he's running away, like he actually gets shot, but he doesn't feel anything. He's just so like pumped from like the anger.
Yeah, and so that's why he's going back to Star Labs now. But first, he has to stop at the zoo. But before we get there, we get a cool use of the power, and this is what I was talking about, where I think Grant Morrison leveled up his power set. He didn't change it or like change the way you see it completely, but so last we saw Animal Man is sitting in an alley with his arm having been ripped off by a rat creature, and he's going through his mind as he's about to die because he's bleeding out, and he's like maybe I can reach out to some animal that has like healing or something, and like a gecko or whatever, they can lose a tail and grow back or whatever. And so in this, he reaches down into the soil, and we see earthworms, and he's like, wait, earthworms, they can get cut in half and regrow or whatever. So he gets that power, and he regrows his arm. And we get a nice little shot of his hand, kind of weak at first. We get little stubby fingers, which is fun.
A little like Deadpool arm come through.
Yeah, exactly. And then, he grows it out, but then he sees that as he's kind of like, oh shit, my arm's back. He looks around and he sees that the homeless man that became the rat is like not back to normal. He's got some kind of after effects from that amalgamation or fusion. And he's no longer a rat, but he's definitely naked, sitting in an alley, like having a seizure or something, And so Animal Man is like, okay, I got to call the cops, make sure this guy's taken care of. He'll get him some help. And then he's got to make a phone call again to do that. So he goes back to a payphone. And then we cut back to the woods where Maxine and his wife are now being threatened by these fucking hunters. And they find the cat. They find the cat. That's actually Maxine's cat. They don't really say that in this, but, the cat they grab the cat, and they like, hey, our dogs want to kill stuff too. And they throw the cat to the dogs, and the dogs murder the cat.
Yeah, they don't show that, but you just see chomp and then like some blood splatter, and it's like, oh my God.
Now, I'm kind of new to having cats, but if I tried to pick a cat up like this by the neck, like he doesn't pick it up by the scruff of the neck, he picks it up like whole fist enclosed around the neck of the cat. I would think the cat would be able to bite the fuck out of him and like scratch the shit out of him too. So I don't know. I just having had that happen with cats before. This cat's pretty passive, just saying. But yeah, it ends up getting killed by the dogs, and then. When the wife is like, I can't believe you did that. You're insane. Get out of my way. Maxine is hiding behind the bushes, we should say. And she sees her mom get hit in the head with the butt of a gun because the hunter attacks her. And then Maxine runs out and is like, don't hurt my mommy. And then we cut away from that to Animal Man, who's going back to Star Labs to be like, look, something's weird. You didn't tell me everything. I can feel like there's something odd happening. And so when he goes back there,
I do like this. They're like, don't worry about it. Here, get in the back of this truck for us real fast. We'll everything will be fine. We'll take you.
Yeah, just get back here.
Yeah, we'll take you around to the with the other area or whatever. To the lab
and also they're like loading up the dead animals and stuff. So then we cut to Buona Beast, who is now back at Star Labs. He's also remembering like what happened as far as like he was away from the mountain, and then that's how they got Juba. And we see like he made like an amalgamation. I don't know what he amalgamated here because it's got like fucking dragon wings, but it's a lion. Oh, it's a bat.
It's a bat,
gotta
like
be
a flying fox. Maybe
I see it. Yeah, because the lion has like a bat nose or whatever, and kind of vampiric teeth. So it's a very cool like use of his powers.
Yeah, there you go.
And this is cool because he just goes straight up. Like he's talking about his friend that gets murdered by these, I guess, warlords that attack a village. And he's trying to save his friend in time with this lion beast, but the guy ends up getting shot in the head. So he flies down with this lion or this bat lion and decapitates the warlord in front of everybody. It's pretty fucking awesome. But that's what he's remembering as he comes to the Star Labs again and breaks through the glass and breaks in while Animal Man is here this time, I think, right?
Yeah.
And when he broke in, he like totally cut his hand up and everything, so he's bleeding and stuff, but he's all super pissed. He doesn't even feel that pain. And of course, like guards and stuff are trying to attack him, like security guards, but he doesn't care really. So then we cut to Maxine, who has run away while her mom is being attacked by these men, and she is smart and goes to the neighbor who kind of has been ignoring like his wife and stuff the whole time and kind of telling the kid, buzz off, I'm busy, or I'm like sitting here in the lawn sunning.
He's basically sleeping in the lawn chair.
Yeah, and so she goes over to him and says like, oh, I need help. Like, my mom's in danger. These guys are murdering like animals and stuff, and they're attacking my mommy. And he's like, what? And so, as a good neighbor, at least, I thought this guy was like the save of the day right here. He goes with Maxine back to where the mom was, and then we cut back to Buona Beast, who is now coming out of the back door where Buddy has pulled up in the van, and we see. I guess it's a trash can fly through the door in order to break it open. And Buona Beast has an ape over his shoulder, which is Juba, and he's running out, and he runs right past Animal Man. And Animal Man is standing there, and the scientists run up, and they're like, "Do something! This is why we paid you." And he's like, "Look, something fucking fishy's going on here, and I'm not gonna like jump after that guy until you tell me what's going on." So then we find out, oh yeah, they're just fucking making chemical and biological weapons for the government, and that's why they kidnapped Juba, and they tested on her, and now she has a very, very, very contagious strain of anthrax. And so no one knows that except these guys. So they're not supposed to know. No one's supposed to know that, and it's kind of under the books. So
yeah, and they're like, oh, great, and now she's like leaving. I mean, she's dying, but
she's Buona Beast is just running through public areas. Yeah. So contagious, spreading through the area. This ape, and also like he might get it, kind of thing too. So the scientist tells Animal Man that, and Animal Man's like, oh, fine, I guess I'll stop it or whatever. So then we cut back to Ellen, who is now trapped by these hunters. And this is what you were talking about mainly, John, right? Like,
no, yeah, like then this is where like it super takes a hard.
I mean, it was already amping up to like 10. It goes to 11 here, we'll say.
Yeah, the guy's like, oh, this is the end of the line for you, honey, and she's like, and the one guy is like, there is one of the other guys is like, I think you're going a little far.
Yeah, but he's not jumping in or anything. No. He's just like, hey, man, maybe we shouldn't do this. But while the guy's taking off his belt and he's about to rape Ellen.
Yeah, he takes off his belt and starts pulling down his pants.
Yeah. But luckily, the neighbor comes in clutch, and he brought a gun with him, which is nice. So he pulls it on the hunter who's about to rape Ellen, and then that hunter's like, I bet you won't do it, you old man. And he's kind of taunting him and stuff. But the guy who was, I guess, saying, man, I don't think we should do this, actually, as the rapist pulls his gun up to shoot at the neighbor, this friend of the hunter/rapist shoots him with his own gun, and
it blows his, and it shows it on the page. It blows his head off.
Now, the only reason they're allowed to do this, I think, because this is normal DC. This is not Vertigo yet, so this is pretty hardcore. But it's all one color. It's all pink. They like make his body pink as he gets shot. So there's no actual like differentiation between blood and brain and all that stuff.
Yeah, so you're just like, oh, that could be anything.
Yeah, totally. I mean, his hair's flying off. Yeah. So anyway, when that happens, of course, he's dead, and Ellen takes a branch and just begins to beat him.
It beats the corpse. Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, this is wild.
Yeah, and then realizes that her daughter is seeing her beat a man who's just had his head blown off with a branch, and she's like, oh my God, Maxine. So, and then Maxine's like, what about the kittens? Because she finds the kittens. So now the mom's like, you're right. Okay, we're going to take the kittens, and hopefully you're not too traumatized by this, honey. And then we cut to Animal Man, who, like we said, has decided to go and track down Buona Beast. So Buona Beast took Juba to the San Diego Zoo, I guess to give her some kind of like normalcy, to be around what looks kind of like her familiar surroundings as she dies. Yeah. Because she's dying from anthrax, and they can telepathically talk to each other. So like we're seeing how much it like Juba means to him, and he's like crying out, and the other animals are crying out because they can feel his pain as he kind of telepathically is unable to keep that within himself, and he freaks the fuck out as she dies, and so basically Animal Man catches up to him, and like there a big fight ensues. Basically, like he sees Juba on the ground. Buona Beast walks up behind him and is like, "Leave my friend alone." And Animal Man's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Like I didn't, I'm not trying to kill your monkey, but it's also got contagious virus or whatever." So, like I was saying, this is another. You get a full shot of Buona Beast. You get to see like partial cheek here, which is a little something for the male attracted audience, I guess. So, yeah. Also, Buddy Baker's costume. They mentioned he puts on a leather jacket, which is something that happens in the '80s runs of things a lot. Like specifically in the Grant Morrison stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you've ever seen Doom Patrol, there's like a robot, and every other time you see him in like earlier incarnations of it, he's just a robot. But in the Grant Morrison run, he puts on a leather jacket because you got to cover up something, right? You got to give him something to wear. And same with Animal Man here. Before, he just has like a giant orange costume that has a big A in black on it, and he gives him a black leather jacket to wear over that now. So he's not like he even says like, "Well, I felt kind of naked," and but hey, bro, your junk is still hanging out like in your spandex. Like your jacket doesn't cover that, so maybe he's okay with that. I guess I don't know. So now they face off because Buona Beast is not hearing any apologies or anything from or like reason from Animal Man. And it's pretty good fight scene starting. Like, I mean, Buona Beast is 8 inches taller than him and much more muscular.
Yeah, but it seems cool because Animal Man is like able to like figure out what animals are good to use in the zoo, and so they basically start matching like tit for tat as far as like very evenly powered. Like he gets the upper hand, then Animal Man gets the upper hand once or twice. Like he kind of goes back and forth.
Yes, and then so. He gets punched, or Animal Man does, by Buona Beast, lands in the flamingo pond, and then Buona Beast kind of takes off. And we see, like, Buddy looking for him, and he sees, like, the remnants that Buona Beast has left behind, meaning he, like, fused a monkey and a lion, or an ape and a lion. I don't remember what he calls this thing.
Oh, it's ape and a tiger.
Oh, an ape and a tiger, I mean, yeah. And he calls it a chimpiger or something like that.
Yeah.
Or, I can't remember what he calls it, but I thought it was like a very cool name for that thing. And then he also fuses like an eagle and some sort of dog or a fox.
I think it was like fox.
So like he's like amalgamating all these things together in order to try to slow down Animal Man. And they end up having this giant fight where it ends up in the elephant enclosure because Buona Beast is like, I'm going to fuse you, and you're gonna go berserk, because you're like an animal. Is it gonna be like a what is it? A gazelle and an elephant? I think is what he's gonna.
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. So, it's just gonna make him like a giant thing. And then before Buona Beast can do that, luckily it is the elephant exhibit because Animal Man absorbs the elephant's power, and now he can kind of go toe to toe with him one on one a little bit in strength. But Buona Beast, I should say, Buona Beast is able to mind control even Animal Man with the helmet. So he tells him like stand down or whatever. And as like Animal Man is just kind of standing there and they're deadlocked because Animal Man actually is able to fight back with his mind because he can control animals too. So like there's a stalemate going on. It's basically like scanners where they're staring into each other's brains and both of them are kind of having a hard time controlling the other. But unfortunately, or I guess fortunately for Animal Man, the anthrax also caught Buona Beast. Yes. So as he's fighting, all of a sudden he collapses because he's bleeding internally from the anthrax, and he begins to vomit blood. And then Animal Man goes over to Buona Beast and takes his helmet off and kind of has like a human moment with him where he says like, why are they doing this, kind of thing. And there's definitely like a connection about animals there. And he's like, this world is so empty without them, and like, I don't know. It's a very touching moment, even for like a bad guy and a hero, because at this moment, Animal Man's kind of on his side as far as he's not for the scientists who are making, biochemical weapons for the government. So
Yeah.
he doesn't like that they kidnapped his gorilla and stuff. And then also that the gorilla is more than a gorilla. It's kind of like also something too. It's like a missing link kind of thing. And then we cut to the family who is burying the cats, I guess the remains of the cats.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. The kittens.
The kittens.
Because the kittens do not survive.
No.
They take them to the house and they're too little. They do not survive. And this like really kind of sets the tone for this issue because like we just had the death of the gorilla and Buona Beast is dying and they're both crying there. And then we're crying at the house where the kids are seeing death for like the first time, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Because Maxine is a little girl, so. And so Buona Beast talks to Animal Man some more and we get like a little bit more touching thing. And then is another revelation of powers that Animal Man can do.
Yeah.
So this is what I was saying. I feel like he can go into humans because they're animals, right? Mm-hmm. So he actually goes into Buona Beast's cells as they're dying and he modifies them, I guess, or makes it so they can fight off the virus.
He made like super white blood cells, basically, is what he did.
And so they begin to fight off the virus, and even though Buona Beast is kind of out of it still, he ends up surviving. And so that's where he just leaves them and he lets them be, and then we see like the gorilla and the tiger are separating, and then he goes back to the lab, and Animal Man tells him, I let him go. Like, I'm not capturing him. And you guys are fucking wrong, and you guys should be ashamed. I'm ashamed for ever being involved with you. And they're like ashamed. And then Animal Man, as the scientist is like, I knew we made a mistake with you, some like useless penny ante superhero. And then Animal Man turns around and punches the scientist in the face, which is fantastic, I thought. And then we cut back to the family that night. And surprisingly, Maxine, not too traumatized by seeing her mom almost get raped and a man's head get blown off. She's at least able to go to sleep.
Yep.
Because he's tucking her in. And then we cut to the wife, who is also doing pretty well. And I guess some of the cats did live. Because we see one of the kittens is alive, and she's feeding it milk. And she's like, he's going to live. And then this is one of the best endings of like a story arc I've ever seen in a comic. This is just like every other comic would have ended where it ended, with him being punched and be like, that's good enough.
Yeah.
This was fantastic.
Or back home, like, okay, with the family.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, the punch and then back home. Oh, our hero's good, back to normal. We cut back to Buona Beast, who hasn't left the city yet. He is, he's recovered now somewhat from his anthrax debacle or his anthrax infection, and we see inside of Star Labs, the scientist guy that got punched is writing his notes on what happened, and Buona Beast bursts into the room and throws the body of Juba at him on his desk, and he's like, "What are you doing? That thing has anthrax." And so the scientist calls the guards up and says like, "Well, the man is here. The ape is turned up. Send someone as quickly as you can to like handle it and like process it." Because they also want to find out like what it did to its body and stuff, so they want to test on it.
Yeah.
And Buona Beast, at first the scientist is like, "Ha, they'll be here soon. You better leave." And he's like, "Good," because I actually wanted that to happen. Because he goes over to the man, and he uses his fusion powers to fuse the professor or the scientist and his friend the ape Juba, her body. And I guess when you fuse them together, becomes alive again, at least the body is.
Yeah.
But now this scientist is half or part gorilla and also has anthrax. And also Buona Beast leaves before the guards show up. So when they arrive, they see the gorilla just sitting there, and it's like, it looks a little bit different, but not different enough that they'd be like, "Oh yeah, this is a totally different gorilla." They're like, "Oh yeah, I mean, looks good to us. Gorilla's alive. It's got, some kind of crazy virus, and it's where the professor or the scientist said it would be." So they take it, and then they start cutting it open while it's alive in like a test room, and it's actually the scientist in there, so he gets what's coming to him.
Yeah,
we'll say, and that's the end of the first story arc of this. I loved the end of that story arc. Just really getting his own, and then. So there in this first trade, there are 4 more issues because it's 9 issues long. All of them are one shots, and all of them are just kind of used to expand on Buddy's growth as a hero and also as like an animal rights activist and stuff like that. There's nothing really of like mention that needs to be super mentioned or anything.
Yeah.
Other than he starts throwing out all his meat.
I do like that his wife comes home and he's throwing out all the meat in the fridge and the freezer, and she's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "We have to get rid of all this meat. We are not eating meat eaters anymore.
We are all vegetarian."
She's
like, conversation between us, please. Like I get that's great, but like you didn't talk to me about it, and now we're throwing away like weeks worth of meat.
Yeah.
So please don't do that. That's a lot of money. And so there's stuff like that. So you get the growth of him as like an animal rights activist and those kinds of things. And then also, we get introduced to the Justice League because he finally applies and they call him back because now it's the JLI, so they're kind of open to more D-list heroes or whatever. And they saw him on the news and stuff, so they're like, oh, obviously he's doing stuff. And then the weird thing is this was intercut with the Invasion. What's it called? Invasion event that happened in DC. So. You might not know this because you might not be caught up on the Swamp Thing issues that are a while back. But
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember an invasion.
So Swamp Thing, aliens invade the Earth in an event called Invasion. All their technology is wood based, so they had to get Swamp Thing out of there because he can affect anything made of wood or whatever. So they get him out of there. He goes through like a time travel journey, which is like
this. Okay, yes,
yeah.
I don't. That's like right around. You've told me some things, and I'm just coming up to it. So yeah, no, I know what we're talking about.
So I never read Invasion, so I just know that. But apparently, the Thanagarians, which is like Hawkman's people, are part of it as well because they show up in an issue.
Yeah,
and I like in that one he doesn't win, but he wins because Hawkman shows up and he like shuts off the bomb or whatever. But there's like this Thanagarian comes who's like they're like a war culture. They're like a fascist war culture.
Yeah,
and they all look like hawks. And I mean the women on Thanagar. They just wear like suspenders over their nipples, which it's a choice,
Yeah, I know. At first, I thought that was Hawkman. I was like, "Why is he on it?" And then I realized I was like, "Oh no, they're coming."
They show up in Swamp Thing in the Alan Moore run for one issue, and that's where I was like, "Oh, I guess I thought it was Hawkman as well." But no, this ain't them. This is just Thanagarians. All have hawk wings and helmets and stuff.
I also didn't know that the wings weren't. I didn't realize that they were just armor.
Yeah, they just detach.
Because sometimes they look like feathers and sometimes they look like metal. So
I think it depends on who's writing it and what
Yeah.
Which arc you're in, or which series you're in.
I wasn't sure, but the hawk girl at that. Well, not the hawk girl, but the what is it called again?
The Thanagarian woman.
The Thanagarian woman is fighting with Animal Man, and they go in the water, and so he's breathing with fish, and she's like can't breathe, and he ripped off her.
Well, he pushes the button like the centerpiece that looks like a hawk. He pushes that, and it's like a buckle, and it releases her wings, and then she can't swim or whatever, so she dies underwater.
I know. I just was like, I had no idea that's how that worked. That's crazy.
Yeah, and those are also like the suspender part, like the straps that are buckled are what are covering her nipples. So,
yes.
They're free people.
They were bubbles. They were cleverly.
They've freed the nipple.
Wow.
So, it's bird person's people.
It is bird person.
So so that was a cool issue because Buddy Baker fights a Thanagarian, and he is not up to fighting a Thanagarian. Like those are war culture, like a war race. But think of like Spartans basically, and he's just a fucking guy that can absorb worm powers and shit. So like he's about to die, and then luckily Hawkman shows up and does that. So the only other thing of note is there's one issue right after this one, and this is like an award-winning issue. It's the one with the coyote.
Oh yeah, it was very much like Looney Tunes-esque.
Yeah, so what happens in that one, just to mention, this is the one where he's getting really into being a vegetarian and he's throwing out all the meat. So there's a side story going on that doesn't have anything to do with Animal Man, really. It's just this coyote constantly keeps like being killed and run over by cars and stuff. But he looks weird. He's walking on 2 feet. But he doesn't look like a coyote from Looney Tunes, but he looks like if that coyote was in our world.
Yeah.
And it turns out that is what happened. Basically, he kind of got too big for his britches in the Looney Tunes world, and he was sentenced to living in, I would say, our world, but the comic book world, where it's more realistic. And so he has the same power where he cannot die, but he still gets like run over and he feels all the pain. Unlike in the Looney Tunes world, he doesn't feel the pain in the Looney Tunes world, but in this, he fucking dies. And there's a hunter that thinks it's a werewolf that keeps like chasing him and going after him.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna shoot him with these silver bullets.
Yeah.
That'll do the trick.
And there's just it's a funny like weird issue, but that's an award-winning issue. That was like the one that kind of put the series on the map.
There were some really cool panels in it where like it looked like Looney Tunes animation, and then like
when he's like
mixed
on
with
trial, they're like, you're on trial, and there's like a Daffy Duck surrogate, and like all the Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd and everything. It's not them because, well, I guess it could have been because this is WB.
Oh yeah, DC
so they could have done it. I don't know. Maybe I didn't look at it hard enough. Maybe they didn't seem familiar to me.
No, I don't think they were.
They're probably just analogs because WB doesn't want to like cross streams or whatever. So, but yeah, so. That was like an award-winning issue that was definitely very cool. But like the next 4 issues just kind of develop his character a little bit more as far as the animal rights and vegetarian part, and then him becoming part of the Justice League International. So with that being said, John, what would you give it? What'd you think?
I liked it a lot. It like I said, I definitely was like, oh, that's okay. So he doesn't turn into animals. But the way it was unique. I was like, that's a cool idea of how to pull it. Like, the animals that are nearby, he is able to sense them, and then that power translates to whatever that would be for a human. But like, so like, yeah, if an ant or a spider lifts 10 times its weight, well, now he can lift like 10 times like the strongest human weight or whatever. Kind of like Captain America, kind of, or more powerful, I would say.
Yeah.
The flying, the arm was great. He gets his arm ripped off, and he's like,
well, that's great because it leaves it like a cliffhanger, and you're like, how the fuck is he going to come back from this? He's like bleeding out. Like the way they show it, there's just a giant pool of blood coming out of his stump. So, yeah.
And they talk a little bit about later on, too. He's talking about different animals. He's like, like if there was like such and such, I could do this. And so it's fun. Like it's a neat idea. And like it definitely was like, I would love to read more. And like, especially like if I could find out issues where it was like a really unique way that he used an animal power or something like that. Sounds like it would be really fun to get into. So he's definitely a cool, unique character. Like I said, I would read more, and it was a lot of fun. I was never bored. It was definitely interesting. It had like some normal tropes, but like I never felt like, oh, like when is this gonna get going? Like I was
like, this is generic.
No. It was I was enjoying it the whole time. So so it was really good. I would probably give this. I'd probably say a 7.
Yeah,
it's solid.
Yeah, as like a first trade, especially the first little arc that we read or went through on here, like that. That's a really good like introduction to the new hero, the new version of him and stuff.
And the art is great too. I should say we didn't.
Yeah, it's like I said, I never heard this artist before, other than this series. Yeah. So,
but all the art is solid. With digital, it's hard to say if like maybe some of the colors weren't like adjusted.
I think it's pretty much what it always is because it didn't look jarring to me. So
there wasn't really too. Maybe once when I was like, as far as like a color choice. But for the most part, it felt normal. And then, but the covers were also all the covers were very cool.
Oh yeah, the covers are great. In this, so I'm gonna give this one a 7 as well. I think this is a good introduction to the hero. You get like a sense of his powers and what he can do, and it like is the revamp. So he's cooler than he had been before. So it's a good, instead of going back to like the earlier Animal Man where it might not be as fun because it's like more formulaic or more generic. This is like him putting on his leather jacket. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So and Grant Morrison really goes above and beyond, like expanding his powers. And also, I will say, like, there's a lot of talk about politics in comics and stuff. This is one of the characters that I think, and same with Swamp Thing, it makes sense that they're political. Like when Animal Man becomes an animal rights activist later on, it's like, well, yeah, because he's Animal Man. He like feels kind of like wannabes. He gets more empathetic to animals. He can feel their pain and stuff more.
Yeah.
He starts becoming more one with them. And so it makes a lot of sense, and it fits the character and the story. So I think that's the main thing. Like when Swamp Thing becomes an eco-terrorist or fights pollution and shit, well, yeah, he's an elemental of the earth. Yeah. So it makes sense. And yeah, it like if the writer is one of those things, like if the writer is for, I mean, I don't know who isn't anti-pollution, but like, like if the writer is like really
All the
really
Captain Planet bad guy.
yeah, exactly. If the writer is really really save the planet kind of person, it fits. And it doesn't seem like super preachy because it fits the storyline. As long as the story is good and it fits, then it's all good. Same with here. At this time, Grant Morrison was becoming a vegan, and so he was really passionate about that when he took this over for this comic over. So it fits a lot, like the character and the storyline makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like that's like the perfect like meshing of a writer's politics with a character. It's not like he did that to Superman or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like which does, I mean, you could have certain aspects of Superman be like that, but he's not going to feel as empathetic towards animals as someone who's named Animal Man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like to shoehorn that kind of shit into characters that don't fit that archetype or whatever, or that political spectrum or whatever, it'd be weird. Like if someone's writing the question, that character came from like an objectivist Ayn Randian point of view or whatever, it'd be weird to just throw in some kind of environmentalism or something into that, because that doesn't fit that character. So you want to kind of stick, and the same thing with that. It makes sense that he is like that if he's going to have the Ayn Rand kind of point of view, because that's how he was written and created. So he's always had that point of view, and that's kind of where he grew. And I thought that's what Denny O'Neil did a good job kind of like adding in like the Zen element to the question, because it wasn't like, hey, I'm changing the character fully. It was like, oh, I'm just like adding this little aspect into his belief structure, and it fits well enough that it's not changing the character completely.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the best you could hope for when someone's going to interject politics or whatever in. But this is actually like the next step of the best you could hope for, because the character's literal power set fits, your politics. So I just wanted to say that, because later on it does get more political, but it makes more sense because of Animal Man.
I want to know when Aquaman is giving up eating seafood.
He doesn't. I mean,
Yeah,
he's like a shark. They eat fish.
I guess. I don't know.
They're fish who eat fish.
He needs to be eating kelp and krill, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's it. So with that being said, John, what are we reading next week?
Next week we're reading in celebration, I would say, of the new Thor movie coming out.
Or anticipation.
Anticipation. Yeah, it's true. We don't know if it's going to be good. I have a good feeling. I liked Ragnarok.
John's already made up his mind. It's going to be good.
I liked Ragnarok. I like Taika Waititi a lot. So I'm definitely
Why don't you marry him?
I mean, I honestly don't even think my wife would complain, because she loves him too. I mean, I like him a lot. He's awesome. Anyway, but we are excited for it, and especially on the channel, I'm definitely more of the
Marvel guy?
Well, not just Marvel, but I was
MCU?
going to say like the actual like physical media content as well for
oh yeah, like other medias besides
Yeah.
comics. Okay.
yeah, I bring a little bit of that too, so like I get hyped, and yeah, if you didn't see my trailer reaction for it, but so in anticipation for that, we're going to read the Goddess Thor.
Yes. Thor, Goddess of Thunder.
Thor, Goddess of Thunder. Pardon me,
Volume
I put
one.
it backwards. My bad.
And that
I've
is
never read this one, so
I've never read it either. It is the storyline, the official storyline, because this was like a what if that they did a long time ago in the 70s. But the idea of Jane Foster becoming Thor, that was a what if from the 70s. They turned it into an actual part of the storyline of Thor from 2014 and 15 called, it's volume 1, Thor, Goddess of Thunder is what it's called. So, and that is Jane Foster, Thor's first appearance, I guess. So, first appearance that was in the main continuity and not a what if. So yeah, we're gonna read that, and that should be cool. Before the movie comes out, we'll get a little backstory on that character.
Yeah, we'll be able to compare and see what goes on. Because like I do know a little bit about this comic, so I will be interested to see, what is pulled and what connects, and
Yeah,
But I'm excited to read the actual comic because I've heard good things about it. So
yeah, I heard good things about this too. I mean, there's of course controversy because I don't know. I tend to not judge things before I read them. Just like Miss Marvel.
yeah,
I enjoyed Miss Marvel while other people rail against it just because they don't like the character or whatever, or they don't like new Marvel stuff. I'm willing to give it a shot. It might not be my favorite thing because I'm not a giant Marvel fan, but generally, as long as the writing's good and the story's fun, I'll like it. So we'll see though. I'm not. Jason Aaron currently isn't my favorite writer, although he did a good job with some Conan stuff. And then I like his older stuff like Scalped and whatnot. So I know he is a good writer. Just I've read some of his Marvel stuff recently and didn't care for it too much. So we'll see how this one is, because it's a while ago, you know. But yeah, anyway, like we said at the beginning, this was a patron poll, winner. So if you would like to be voting on that, you can become a patron at patreon.com/Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word. And if you do that, there's a couple different tiers. One of them is just the blue and gold tier, where that allows you to vote, and that is $2 a month. And right now, we also have a $2 a month tier for a limited time. It's got a certain amount of spaces for the Hellblazer Matt's Minis podcast. So if you know, I do a Swamp Thing Matt's Minis every week, and that is me going through every issue of Swamp Thing. We are currently on issue 95 of Volume 2. So we've gone over 100 issues of Swamp Thing so far. And we are now moving also with Hellblazer as Matt's Minis, and that is going to be a Patreon tier. So if you like Swamp Thing Matt's Minis and you are interested in Constantine, definitely check that out. Like I said, there's a limited amount for the $2, and then it goes back up to, I think $5 was the regular tier for that. So, jump on if you would like to get it for less than the $5 tier. And like I said, that is me going through all the Hellblazers. We're currently at issue 26 of this week. So pretty awesome series. I love that series. We're about halfway through, a little over halfway through the Jamie Delano run, which is the first 40 issues. Nice. And after that, we get Garth Ennis' run. So we read a trade from that.
Yeah.
Fucking gold. It's fucking awesome. So if you like fucked up 80s stuff, just like this got really heavy. Hellblazer's coming out at the same time.
But Hellblazer's like definitely
Hellblazer's the next level.
Yeah.
so yeah, for sure. It's mature audiences. But if you like that and you want to find out more about Hellblazer, check that out. Yep. Once again, at patreon.com/Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word.
And a shout out to our patrons. Thank you, Otaku Mike
and Hoku. Big thank you to you guys for all your support. I love kind of seeing what you guys want to read and hearing the feedback from y'all. So appreciate that. And also, if you would like to contact us, you can email us at Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word, at gmail.com.
And don't forget about our Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube channel for exclusive content. Let us know what you're liking. Like, share, and subscribe. And with that, we'll see you on the next one.
On the next one.